Welcome back, everyone. Once again, we are joined by Bill Carroll and Tyler Fukuroda. We are jumping back into the first round mock of the 2022 NFL Draft, and we will start with pick number 17 that is owned currently by the Los Angeles Chargers. So, moving on to number 17, my favorite team, the Los Angeles Chargers, a phenomenal and explosive offseason for them. Acquisitions include Khalil Mack, Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, J.C. Jackson, and so much more. But those are some of the other special teamers that they went after. So 17, they're in this very peculiar place. A lot of people want them to go after Jordan Davis. I like Jordan Davis. I just have my own issues with him that I will talk about later. And to me, they've already filled that gap with Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, and the fact they still have guys like Fehoko and Merrill on the roster. I'm going to go with a very controversial pick at number 17, Chris Olave, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, Chris Olave is my number one wide receiver on the board right now for a multitude of reasons. But to me, he has the three keys you need to be a phenomenal wide receiver. He has the athleticism, he has the intelligence, and he has the want it factor. And if you want to add a fourth, he has the clutch factor, in my opinion. To me, his route running ability is the best in this draft. It reminds me a lot of Keenan Allen. He can run the entire route tree like Garrett Wilson. He can also run the screen. He can put him in the backfield. He can do all kinds of things with a guy like him. He has sure hands. I want to go back to that Michigan game, Ohio State, Michigan. You never felt that they were out of the game. And one of the key reasons was because Olave was on that field. He was plucking balls out of the sky. Great vertical. He has a great range, especially when you're talking about Herbert's rocket ball. You don't need a guy like Drake London because Mike Williams is already a jump ball wide receiver. Keenan Allen, I think, only has 2 years left on his extension, and he's already in his late 20s. So you also got to look to the future as well. I really like Josh Palmer, a guy they drafted out last year. But to me, Olave is a much more polished receiver. And Jalen Guyton, though he is the speed guy, he's not nearly as polished as much. I think Olave will be able to burn people come the second level with or without the ball. I'm not saying he's going to come on the scene like Jamar Chase. It's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is he just provides that extra it factor to be able to make that an already explosive offense more explosive and to put up points to where an already dominant defense doesn't have to work as hard. So therefore, I'm going with Chris Olave. I'm going to throw it to you, Bill. Who are you taking at 17 for the Chargers?
I'm a big fan of that pick, like because I think some Chargers fans would be less than thrilled with it, but I could see it, and I think it makes a certain kind of sense. I am not going to make that same pick though. Though I do like it. The player I am going to send there is actually Kenyon Green, guard from Texas A&M, and one, you're going to continue to solidify a good but not great offensive line. And I think that they want to get back. I know I keep saying this, but some teams want to be really balanced or close to balanced. And usually the Chargers, the Los Angeles Chargers, normally had been fairly balanced. They became a little pass heavy, pass happy, whatever you're going to use last year. And I think they want to get a little more balanced. And once again, it means fewer hits on your extremely talented young quarterback who, is really the key to that team's success on offense. A guy like Kenyon Green does, once again, have that whole bouncer at the club mentality, another guy that tosses dudes around like empty garbage cans. Very, very unpleasant and mean, at least on the field. Plays with edge, whatever term you want to use. And certainly can hold up in the pass game. And I think we get better at that, but is already a dominant run blocker.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that pick too. They had Ode Abushi at guard last season. And quite frankly, the Chargers were flying. And then he got hurt for the season. And they never recovered. I love that Green pick. And, just to attest to your take on their offensive line, it is all decent, above average. That's because the left side is incredible and the right side is completely horrific, which is not good when you got guys in that division like Max Crosby, Frank Clark, Chris Jones if you put him on the outside, Randy Gregory coming at your quarterback. So love that pick for the Chargers. I'm gonna throw it to you, Tyler. Who are you taking at 17 overall for the Chargers?
Well, Brock, this is going to be a very fun pick for me because I know how much you love your Chargers.
You are.
Um, this is a pick. This is a player that you and I actually talk about quite frequently, and I'm going to take him here. Number 17, I'm going to go with Jordan Davis. Now, you have, like mentioned before, there are holes on that offensive line. It's good, but it's not perfect. However, with the addition of Khalil Mack and with Joey Bosa, what are you missing? You are missing an interior lineman. Now, I know there's a signing of Austin Johnson that came from the New York Giants. Trust me, as a Giants fan and watching that team for as long as I've been watching them, Austin Johnson is not the answer to that defensive line. Now, bring in Jordan Davis, who has an elite. I mean, when I say elite, that I don't think that's even describing it enough. The measurables that he has for an interior lineman in today's game is unheard of. Along with the combination of athleticism that he showed when he was testing, I mean, you just don't see that in someone his size. However, even though he does have good straight line speed, I do believe that where he lacks is his change of direction, pass rush plan. There's no pass rush plan when he, on third downs or in passing situations. I mean, that's just because he has brute strength. In college, he can get away with running guys over. He can just run straight through the line. However, when you get to the NFL level, you're going to need some nuances in your pass rush game. I mean, but even if he can't develop that, he's a guy that can eat up gaps in the interior. He can play two gap. I think he can play dual gap responsibility. He's just a space eater. And I think he contributes good athleticism in the interior on the defensive line.
Yeah, so as a Chargers fan, if the Chargers draft any of the guys that we said, I'll be extremely happy. The biggest question mark to me would be Jordan Davis. However, as mentioned, with the signings that they made on that defensive line, I think he would fit in perfectly. And the fact that we don't really know how good Sebastian Joseph Day is without a guy like Aaron Donald next to him. At least when you have a guy like Jordan Davis, that's going to take up a lot of responsibility and allow a guy like Sebastian Joseph Day, the number one ranked a rush defender, to eat in those type of situations. Considering they operate in division, yeah, there's Mahomes and his high-flying offense, but Javonte Williams, Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, they're gonna face a lot of teams like to run the ball. So I like all those picks. Moving on to number 18, New Orleans Saints. So the New Orleans Saints obviously have a new head coach this year, Dennis Allen, the former DC. They've lost a lot of pieces over these past several years, most notably Drew Brees. And Michael Thomas, though he's set to come back, hasn't been on the field for the past 2 seasons, it seems like, after his 2019 explosion year, right? Emmanuel Sanders only played 2020. He was off from last year, right? However, and on the defense side, lost Marcus Williams, who's out with the Ravens, and also Malcolm Jenkins, who retired. A lot of ways you can go with this. They did resign Jameis Winston and brought in Andy Dalton as a backup. So it seems like they're no longer headed with Taysom Hill except in those certain packages. With all that being said, Bill, who are you going with at 17? I'm sorry, at 18.
Okay. At 18, I think this is sort of a value thing as more than anything else. Sometimes, you're taking a player because you can't allow them to keep dropping, for lack of a better way of putting it. And so for me, I think this is where Garrett Wilson finally leaves the board. He's a lot of people's number 1 receiver, a lot of people's number 2 receiver, a lot of people's number 3 receiver, some people's number 4. No matter where you have him ranked, he's a guy that should go somewhere in the, first 16 or so picks. So he's to me, a little bit of a steal here. And the good news is he can play outside and he can play in the slot. He's a guy that has a certain amount of position versatility. And obviously we know about the straight line speed, but the thing that makes him special to me is change of direction. And when you can do what he does at that speed without losing it, right? Without losing the angular momentum that allows you to, beat guys. I mean, just flat out beat guys who thought they had felt like they were in good shape. Like, oh, okay, I'm in good shape. I got this leverage and boom, right? he puts a lot of boom what the for a lot of DBs on tape where they thought they were okay, and then all of a sudden now, where did he go? That's what makes him dangerous. That's what makes him special.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. There's so many ways you can go with the Saints, and receiver is definitely one that I have high. It's not the guy I picked, but before I say the guy I picked, the reason why I like that is because realistically, outside of Michael Thomas, who is their number 2 guy at the moment? Traquan Smith, I think, and Lil Jordan Humphrey. Like, where do you really go? So I love that.
Go to the draft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Especially, and I want to bring up this other point. We don't know if Alvin Kamara is going to even be on the field come week 1 because he has his own legal issues he's got to take care of anyway.
Right.
However, I'm going to go defense, and I'm going to go with Lewis Seen, safety from Georgia. And the reason why is because I believe he can play both the strong and the free. Also, the fact that we had Marcus Williams leave, Malcolm Jenkins retired. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a phenomenal talent, but you can place him anywhere on the field. A guy like him, Seen can back him up and again play multiple positions. And the fact that Dennis Allen is going to be able to have an opportunity to put whatever snap he wants on a defense. If he will ever have restrictions under Sean Payton, I think when you have a tool like that, you can do a lot of interesting things, considering the fact that when it comes to your defensive line, you've had 2 big losses in the past year, which is you lost Trey Hendrickson to the Bengals, who exploded when he got to Cincinnati, and the fact that Cam Jordan just got a year older and a player that's already aging out of the league. So to me, if you want to make the most out of this dominant defense that has been dominant since Allen got there, I think this is the piece that you put inside the New Orleans Saints. So Tyler, I'm gonna throw it to you. If you're the Saints, who are you taking?
So this is a difficult pick for me, just because, I mean, like you said, there are so many avenues that you can go with the New Orleans Saints with this pick. However, and this pick may be a little problematic, but I will be going with Jameson Williams. And the reason why I say this is problematic is because essentially you are trying to supplement your injury-prone receiver with a receiver that's coming off of a pretty bad injury. But I mean, Jameson Williams is a talent and ability just can't be denied, on the field. I mean, he has very good elite speed, good route runner, can create separation. I mean, he's got good hands. He adds a dynamic to that offense, that is kind of lacking over there. And with Jameis Winston coming back, you want to help him out in any way you can. Now, with the departure of Teron Armstead, of course, that hurts the offensive line. However, you need to surround him with weapons. You have Alvin Kamara. You have Michael Thomas, but Michael Thomas can't stay healthy. Now, add in Jameson Williams, who adds elite speed, good hands, good change of direction. And I think he adds very good value as a wide receiver 2 in that room, potentially wide receiver 1, just depending on what they do with Michael Thomas post his contract, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot, if not for his injury history. And the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of players in the NFL have always complained about the issue of playing on turf, right? We've seen players be taken on turf. Even Jameson Williams lost his his injury came on turf up in Indianapolis. Now you're saying that you have to play at minimum 8 to 9 games a season on turf in a dome with a dude that already has that kind of injury. That's why I'm a little hesitant on him. If you take away that concern, I love that pick, especially when you have a quarterback like Jameis who can let that ball rip. Phenomenal selection. Move on to 19, Philadelphia Eagles' 3rd first-round pick. I will let you remind everyone that my first 2 were Drake London and Devontae Wyatt, and I've already made my point clear how much I think the Eagles need to build on their D-line because that's how they won a Super Bowl. So with that, I'm going to go with Jermaine Johnson coming out of Florida. Not going to go too much into it. You guys have said everything about him. I just think when you line him up on that D-line already with Fletcher Cox, already with Brandon Graham, already with Josh Sweat, and then if they were able to take Wyatt, that's a recipe for success that's going to be able to take out any quarterback that they face. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it to you, Bill. Who are you taking at 19?
So we got there ultimately, but we agreed on a lot of things. This is where I'm saying Devontae Wyatt, as mentioned previously, Fletcher Cox is on a 1-year, saying goodbye tour, basically, deal with the Eagles. You're going to need to replace one of the best 3 techs in football. What better way to do it than by bringing in a guy who has all the physical ability and who gets a year to hopefully, if he's smart, follow Fletcher Cox around like a lost puppy and just watch what he does. How does he practice? How does he play? What does he do with his hands? What does he do with his feet? How does he watch film? If you take this opportunity to essentially go to school on a guy like Fletcher Cox, you go from being a raw prospect who, does certain things well to a guy that, if you take good notes and you have that kind of ability, you should be a guy who's going to Pro Bowls multiple times. So I think he has a chance if he settles in, pays attention, and studies hard with a guy like Fletcher Cox there. He has a chance to be great.
Yeah, like I said, we're both on the same page on that, especially considering the fact that we don't know where the Eagles financially are going to be in the next couple of years. So if they are able to kind of spend a lot more money, I know they're giving out extensions, and obviously if they haven't already, they're about to get Wentz's contract off the books for whatever was remaining. That would be a huge pickup for them. Heading out to you, Tyler. What are we going with number 19 for the Eagles?
So for the Eagles in this spot, this is where I'm going to go with Trent McDuffie. Now, something the Eagles have lacked on defense is a good secondary for a while. And Trent McDuffie adds value to that cornerback room with very good speed. I think he's a fluid player, but I think his best trait of all is he's not exactly super physical, but he's a willing tackler. And that is something that I believe a lot of corners in today's game, at every level, lacks that willingness to go ahead and, get down, drop their pads and go and tackle someone. So I believe with Trent McDuffie's athleticism and his willingness, I'm going to take him for the Eagles.
Fair enough. I like that pick too. Going back to the Super Bowl run, they had a phenomenal defense across the board without a doubt. But they had guys like Jalen Mills and Malcolm Jenkins and Ronald Darby, I believe, and so many other playmakers. That this is just the blueprint that they need to kind of get back to that level. Before we move on to number 20, I know it's been a long show. Let's do a real quick snack check. So if you don't mind, Bill, sharing, what have you been munching on during the show?
Mini muffins. Because you can eat them very quickly.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Quick nutrition and getting on the road. What about you, Tyler?
Just some bread, man. I was gonna throw it in the toaster real quick, but I know we're moving along, so just gotta get some carbs in my body. So
I understand. If I had to start snacking, I got my Hello Panda chocolate nearby real quick just to get it rolling. But we are rolling into pick number 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers. First season in a long time, they won't have Ben Roethlisberger as their quarterback. There will be a quarterback competition headed into this year, but it seems like Mitch Trubisky is QB1 at this point. So many ways you can go, so many things they need to replace. Some losses were Juju Smith-Schuster headed to the Chiefs, and quite frankly, their O-line has been horrible since, 2020. Getting rid of guys like David DeCastro, Pouncey retiring, so on and so forth. The way they're going to the Ravens. A lot of ways you can go. I'll start to you, Bill. Who are you going with first?
This is one of my favorite players in the whole entire draft. And when you talk to NFL scouts, all of them love him. Like, I haven't talked to a single scout who's had anything other than great things to say about him. Zion Johnson from Boston College. He is a squeaky clean prospect. He was a guy that came early and stayed late during Senior Bowl practices to work on snapping the ball. He's a guy that would just pick the brains of all the offensive line coaches about how he can get better and, what they think of his tape. And you'd bring up specific games where he thought he didn't have his best game and what he thought. I mean, he's hyper dialed in to his own strengths and weaknesses and wants to be great. Not good, great. He's driven. He's super bright. maybe not a freak athlete, but a good enough athlete. And when you combine that with his drive and his will and just how badly he wants it, I mean, I think the guy's a day one starter. And whether it be at center or guard, I mean, he conceivably could even give you some reps at right tackle. Wouldn't be ideal, but he could do it. I don't think you can find a way to keep him off the field. If you draft him, he ends up playing somewhere. And I think left guard is his best position, but he can do almost anything.
Yeah, so I've been debating back and forth when it comes to the Steelers because there's so many things you need to replace. And for coming into the show, I was Jameson Williams all the way. I thought he was going to spread out that field enough, but I just kept looking at their roster, kept thinking about the tape, kept thinking about what they have on offense, and I got to agree with you. I'm going with Zion Johnson at guard. You made an excellent point that I want to reiterate. This is a guy that potentially is a day one starter. On the Steelers, he is a day one starter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. On that line, he's definitely a day one starter. Yeah.
Right. And obviously, we know that the best way for an offense to operate is to build up that offensive line. And you have a guy like Najee Harris who had such a phenomenal rookie season, right? That you need to make the most of it while he's on this rookie contract in case you have to pay him more money later on or you want to move on. So with all that being said, I love Zion Johnson. So does Bill. We're both going with Zion Johnson. Throw it to you, Tyler, and your piece of bread. Who are they? Who are you guys going with?
So I will be going with offensive line, but I'll be taking a slightly different direction with this. I'm going with Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I do agree that Zion Johnson is a better prospect than Trevor Penning. However, they are missing a lot of things on both offense and defense. Yeah. However, they need a new franchise quarterback, and like I've said many times throughout the show, you need to start with protecting the quarterback. And let's start with his blind side. Trevor Penning kind of fits that Pittsburgh Steelers mold where he's a nasty lineman. He's very physical. I think he already has natural play strength. My issue with him is just he plays too high.
Stiff.
Doesn't have very good pad level. And I mean, one thing I just want to point out too is there's a video on Twitter of him going around, at the Senior Bowl, throwing an edge rusher into the quarterback's legs.
Yep.
I mean, that's just something you need to clean up. I mean, you need to clean up your your punch. You need to clean up your game plan before, you set up in a pass. But other than that, I think with his lateral movement, I think with the athletic ability, with some coaching, Trevor Penning has the potential to be a good starting left tackle in the NFL. But this is where I'm going with the 20th pick.
So I like that pick a lot. I just want to make this observation before we move on. The only issue that I have is that there's so many dominant pass rushers in the AFC North. And if that ever happens, it comes to Mitch Trubisky, that ball's taking a beeline right to the cornerback. So that's why I like Johnson a little bit better. But you do bring up some very good points, especially I think Dotson plays right tackle for the Steelers, and that was painful to watch. Like I think I might have shed a tear a couple times last season. And there's this sheer veteran.
And Chuck Sikora right on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you for checking me. But
no, it's okay. It's not that big a difference, but yes.
Yeah, right. But it was only Ben Roethlisberger just having veteran presence was the only reason the Steelers went anywhere that season. So I just wanted to bring that up. Going to number 21, Darth Vader and the New England Patriots are up on the board. And there's so many ways they can go. I'll start off, and you guys are going to say two things of this pick. One, never going to happen because it's never going to drop that far. And two, what I say about this pick, you're going to be like, Brock, you're an idiot. But that's all right. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say at number 21, the New England Patriots are going to select Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Now, I see your faces. Now, let me make this point. Yeah. On a good day, on his best day, Kayvon Thibodeau is Myles Garrett, essentially. He's strong, physical, quick. Really, realistically, you only line him out on the outside because of all his great traits. Obviously, he did have that injury come into the senior season, so he didn't perform as well. However, on his bad day, he's Cleveland Farrell. I know that's gonna take a lot of you guys back. There's just so many things when it comes to this film that make me go, wow, he's number one player in the country. Other things we go, wow, you can really scheme around him. I think if you give Thibodeau the right environment, the right coaching staff, and somebody that knows how to utilize a player of his strengths, Bill Belichick, New England, right, the Patriot way, this guy is going to be literally a top 10 defender in the NFL coming into his second season. So therefore, I say Kayvon Thibodeau at 21 to the Patriots. And yes, I know he's not going to fall that far. This is just who I think where he would be a perfect fit. I would throw it to you, Tyler. What do you think?
So, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of ways the Patriots can go with this pick. This is where I believe Nakobe Dean is going to land for me. I think Nakobe Dean, there's not something I can put my finger on it, but it just feels like a Bill Belichick pick. And I mean, Nakobe Dean is an instinctual linebacker, lacks in size, obviously, but I believe in Bill Belichick's system. I think Nakobe Dean is a player that will be good. I'm not going to say he's going to go out and be great, but I think he'll be a good productive linebacker.
I considered.
Oh, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I consider Dean as well, but this is where I think Andrew Booth ends up. They love defensive backs. For those who haven't heard, they love defensive backs. They like linebackers a lot too. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a bit of a fight in the draft room, and I don't know if Nike is still logged into Bill's computer because that might come into play. But if Bill is taken back over, then I think it's going to be Booth. Now, if Nike's still logged into Bill's account, then yeah, it might be Kobe Dean. But especially with the whole Bulldog connection there, I could see Nike being like, "Oh, Bulldogs, there's the pick." But yeah, I think if William Steven Belichick is back in control, I think you'll probably see Booth go there. I think you'll think about McDuffie too, because McDuffie can play in the slot. I mean, I think he'll like a lot of players there. I mean, the Patriots sometimes almost always seem to accident their way into the players that they wanted sometimes. But I think that the one they'll end up taking here is Booth.
Yeah, I also want to add to the fact that the players that seem to accidentally land are also guys that don't work out. So it is always a double-edged sword.
Also true, right? Yes.
Yes, Isaiah Wynn is always the guy that comes to mind. Best of luck, Isaiah, with the rest of your life. But that was not.
Well, who knew that a 6'3" or 6'2 3/4 tackle wouldn't work out? I mean, I know sometimes we put too much on height, weight, and speed, or whatever, but there's times when there's a reason no one else is trying it. There's a reason no one else is trying to play a 6'2 3/4 inch guy at tackle.
Yes. And if you were trying to do something experimental, that might make sense, maybe. But you're the Patriots. You guys have been doing things a certain way for a very, very long time. Why do you think Mac Jones is now the starting quarterback of the franchise? Moving on to number 22. Now, this pick was acquired by Green Bay in the Davante Adams trade. And quite frankly, with Aaron Rodgers' new contract, the loss of Davante Adams, and quite frankly, where they are as a franchise in general, a lot of ways you can go here. I'll throw it to you, Bill. Who are we taking at 22 if we're Green Bay?
Yeah, well, let me see. Let me make sure. Yeah, so Williams is gone, right? Olave and, for me, Olave and okay, so once again, I'm not quite this high on this player, but I could see them going with Treylon Burks here. For one thing, he's different from any receiver. We talk about, like you said, bringing something new into the room. They haven't had a guy like this maybe ever, but certainly not a very long time. He's a guy who is sort of like a slower version of AJ Brown, broad-shouldered, long arms, runs through contact, almost ignores contact at times, it seems. He's a guy that press, go, sure, yeah, press all you want. Bring your buddy, you can both press. I mean, like he doesn't get fazed by guys getting physical with him. In fact, he loves it. Like he eats that up. I was one of the people that was not surprised when he didn't work out like a freak. I thought he was a high 4.4s, low 4.5s guy. I think I wrote somewhere that I thought the 40 time on him would be somewhere between 4.48 and 4.54. So I wasn't shocked. I know some people were shocked. Some people had talked themselves to think he was sub 4.4. Based on what? I do not know. He wasn't a big time track athlete in high school. He wasn't just running away from people. When you'd see him running free, it was either because of some massive coverage bust or times when they would, create that openness with motion and things like that. He wasn't just running away from people the way that, some of the guys like Jameson Williams or, Wilson or Olave or, Calvin Austin, where it's just pure acceleration. That's not him. He can get up to a decent rate of speed, but it's build-up speed. Nothing wrong with that. He's a power guy anyway. And I truly believe that they're going to double up at the position in this draft. And I think they feel like they have a better chance of getting the smaller receiver later. I think they feel like a guy like Burks is likely not to be available when they pick again. So I won't be shocked if they go even back-to-back at wide receivers in this class.
Yeah, that's a very fair point considering the fact that Green Bay really doesn't have that go-get-it guy anymore. But they also don't have that speed guy too, because Valdez-Scantling just signed with the Chiefs. So I would.
Yeah, but there's a lot of speed guys in this class.
You just mentioned like 3 of them. So I completely agree with you. However, if I'm Green Bay, I'm going in a different direction, and I'm taking. Let's see who I have on here. I am taking a speed guy at 22. Wait, hold on, wrong pick. No, sorry, take it back. I am taking Kenyon Green at guard for the Packers. But
frankly, not a speed guy.
Yeah, no, so I was wrong pick. You're gonna see that next to the Cardinals, but I'll explain that later. Kenyon Green to the Packers, and the reason why I take that Kenyon Green to the Packers is for the sheer fact that Aaron Rodgers is in this very peculiar time in his career, where yes, he is signed for former years, but he's also the type of guy that might quit after year 1. You never know when it comes to him. I think this receiver class is so diverse and so much talent, and the fact that the free agent wide receiver is still on the market. There's so many good ones. Number 1 is Jarvis Landry, in my opinion. And if the Packers are already willing to give Devontae Adams that big of an extension, they're going to be willing to give less money to one of those top wide receiver guys. I think shoring up that O-line is important. I like Kenyon Green. I love the fact that his explosiveness, his savviness, just savageness, I guess is the best way to say it, alongside the fact he played in a Jimbo Fisher offense. And to me, a Jimbo Fisher offense is going to be one of the most diverse and complete offenses at the college level. With all that being said, the issue with the Packers, in my opinion, is that their run game is good, but not good enough. Aaron Jones is a really good asset. A.J. Dillon is a really good asset. But when it comes to crunch time, especially against the Niners, besides Aaron Jones' huge run at the end of the first half, they really weren't able to get the ball rolling against those guys. You have an NFC that has some of the top defensive lines in all of football. We've already mentioned Washington. Dallas is coming. San Francisco is still there. You also got LA Rams as well. And if you're looking inside your own division, Minnesota is going to be there too. So with all that being said, I am going with Kenyon Green at number 22. Tyler, I'm going to throw it to you. Who are you taking in Green Bay?
So I'm going to make the same pick as Bill did, more so just because, 1, based on need, and 2, every other receiver that I would have picked here is already gone. So, I mean, the A.J. Brown comparison to Treylon Burks is very fitting. I mean, he's a wide target rather than a long target, but there is a lot of physicality to his game. One thing I don't like about him is he just doesn't have like a typical release game off the line of scrimmage. It's just more like, I'm just going to get out and go. Like, I'm going to run through press coverage.
Right. I just run through it. Right.
Right. And
I'm not going to fight your hands. I'm just going to run through you.
Right. And in college, he may be able to get away with that. But in the NFL, can he get away with that? He is a physical receiver that does lack, I believe, long speed. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that burst off the line of scrimmage. He does have good hands. I think he's good in the contested catch. He's physical, so he can adjust his body through the cornerback. Not really, you know. But anyway, I think he would be a solid option if you want to keep Aaron Rodgers happy in Green Bay after signing that long extension. You're going to need to go after a first round receiver, which they haven't done in years, surprisingly. So, with that being said, I'm going with Treylon Burks.
Fair enough. But the only issue I have with Brooks is what you guys said. He's not really a guy that can create a lot of separation or space. He has that run through you mentality, which I love for the pick that I have him going, which will be later on in the draft. It just, you need to be a certain type of player when you play with Aaron Rodgers because of the way he's able to deliver the ball to those spaces. I don't see Brooks being a guy that can go get it in the way that Aaron Rodgers throws it. We'll talk about that later. Moving on to Arizona. I said speed guy. I looked at my list. I changed it up because I realized there's a bigger need and a bigger one on the board that they were going to take. At first, I was going to throw in Jameson Williams to get that speed with both Rondell Moore and him, alongside the fact that Murray can absolutely launch a ball, and that'll give DeAndre Hopkins more space to open up the inside to go along with Zach Ertz. Then I was thinking you can get a fast wide receiver later with Austin or somebody like that, or somebody through free agency. So I was going to go with Breece Hall to kind of shut that run game, to have that 1-2 combo with Connor and Connor, to have him and Connor be that 1-2 punch. But then I was thinking, do they have the offensive line to sustain that? No, they don't, in my opinion. So that was going to go offensive line. But to me, there's more value later on in the draft. So you can say this is going to be a reach. And I'm going to say, sure. But who I'm going with 23 is DeMarvin Leal out of Texas. Oh, sorry, DeMarvin Leal out of Texas A&M. I love DeMarvin Leal. Yes, he did have a little bit of an off the field issue in this offseason, but that was cleared up fairly quickly. And I think once he gets to Arizona, that won't be an issue no more. When it comes to a guy like DeMarvin Leal, and I'm going to talk about him later, he possesses all the tools to be a phenomenal outside rusher. However, if he has played inside, I don't think he should play inside unless it's for sure a passing down or a pass situation. Or he's going to get eaten up like Jerry Tillery, in my opinion, unfortunately. I do think he possesses the quickness and all the tools to be a phenomenal pass rusher. He does like to use the spin move a lot, which I'm not that big of a fan on unless you're really good at it. However, he's a guy that's going to use one or two moves. And if it doesn't work, he's not going to play around. He's going to bull rush you right into the quarterback. I think when you replace a guy like Chandler Jones, this is the perfect young stud you need to have, especially if J.J. Watt is able to come back healthy and kind of dominate on that inside. And to go along with an already burgeoning defense with guys like Isaiah Simmons, Buda Baker, Brian Murphy Jr., so on and so forth. And you just took Zaven Collins in the last draft. If Zaven Collins is able to take that step up and be an elite linebacker, you have Leal as an elite edge rusher. They're going to be able to do a lot of damage, and therefore I am going with DeMarvin Leal at 23. I'm going to throw it to you, Bill. Where you take that 23?
Once again, you're still courage and conviction. So I love how you do this. It's a lot of courage and conviction. Obviously, a lot of people cooled on DeMarvin Leal after the previous year's tape was better than this year's tape, and then his testing was well below average in pretty much every single way that we look at physical testing. But I agree that his tape, particularly if you look at his tape from the season previous, makes you feel like maybe you put on some bad weight. Like there's something going on there. Like he should be a better athlete than that. So I don't know. Yeah, but the testing numbers were a little scary. But yeah, the guy I'm going to go with is Trent McDuffie. I think that they have a need for a playmaker in the secondary. He's versatile. He's smart. He feels like he fits what they like to do. And once again, I know I keep using this term, but he is another guy that has that ability to sort of set the tone. A guy who has the ability to sort of say, hey, we're raising the standard here. We're not giving up 40 points. Like he's the kind of guy that will just not stand for that kind of thing. He's a guy with a really high, he's very competitive. He has high standards for himself and his teammates. So I think that he helps them in the locker room as well as on the field.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. And quite frankly, if McDuffie was there, I had to choose between McDuffie and Leal, I would go with McDuffie. I just have him going a lot higher. We both went
Right.
defense, so we're on the same page with that. Tyler, who are you going with if you're Arizona?
So I'm also going with defense. A guy that's still on my board, but not on yours or both of yours actually. And I'm going with Devontae Wyatt at this spot. Devontae Wyatt, I think, is a good interior D
Yeah,
line
yeah, he
prospect.
is.
I mean, that's putting it lightly, but I mean, I personally do not think that past, I mean, even Wyatt and DeMarvin Leal and Jordan Davis, I don't think it's a deep draft for interior D linemen. So with that, addressing a need, you put him right beside an aging JJ Watt, gives him help on the inside, provides that need or it just fills that hole for that need in defensive line.
Yeah, that's a fair pick. If Wyatt does fall, I would go with him over DeMarvin Leal as well. So I like all the picks you guys have said so far. Moving on to you either love them or you hate them. The Dallas Cowboys at 24. They had a really impressive season that kind of fell off towards the end and a really unimpressive playoff appearance. They did lose a bunch of guys, and their O-line is becoming old. Therefore, I am going with Trevor Penning at 24 out of Northern Iowa to the Cowboys. I think they really need to shore up that O-line. There is some issues with Penning when it comes to his pass blocking, but I think when you have guys like Smith and Martin who are veteran presences in that room, they'll make sure to get him straight. He has all the he has all the physical tools you need to be a dominant offensive lineman. And quite frankly, if they want their offense to operate at all, it does not work without having a subpar offensive line. They have given up a lot of money. Not given up. They have freed up a lot of money when it came to Amari Cooper getting traded to the Browns. So I think they can spend money in filling some of the other holes on the team. I had Jordan Davis initially, but in my opinion, they need to fix that O-line way more than they need to fix that D-line, even though that is an issue in my opinion. I know the long spiel, but therefore I am going with Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa to the Cowboys. All right, I'm going to throw it to you, Bill. Who are you going with?
The Cowboys are because they always feel like they're, right there. They always feel like they're, we always feel like they're a player or two away, and somehow either it's the wrong player or something happens. But I think they're going to zero in on a couple of positions. And this is sort of my first time of going like no guts, no glory with a pick. And picking a player that most people don't think is going to go this early. But I think the NFL likes him better than draft Twitter likes him. And it's safety Jaquan Brisker from Penn State. I think that around the league, he's perceived as much closer to Kyle Hamilton than I think other people, people who aren't in the league think. I think the NFL likes him a lot. And first of all, he's a really good physical athlete, right? That's the first thing. He's 6'1" and 3/8. He's 199 pounds. He can run. He's strong. I mean, the guy did 22 bench reps. We've got pass rushers, tight ends, even a few offensive linemen who didn't knock out 22 reps this year. So to get that from a safety tells you something. It tells you that the guy likes the weight room, right? But it also tells you that this is a physically imposing, strong, powerful guy. And people say, what does the bench press matter? Why do I care? It definitely shows up when it comes to fighting off blocks. It definitely shows up when it comes to tackling. And if you're going to play safety in this league nowadays, you should do both things at a fairly high level. He's my safety too, and it's very close, at least for me, between Hamilton and he. So for me, this still feels like a really good bargain almost, because I think you're getting a guy who's close to Hamilton in terms of what he can do at the NFL level, and is actually a better athlete.
Yeah, that's a great pick. And him and Michael Parsons do have that Penn State connection. So when Michael does play the Mike linebacker role, they already have a great chemistry there. Tyler, you're the Giants fan. This team is your arch rival. How do you make them better?
So, without saying much to how I actually feel about the Dallas Cowboys and wanting them to get better, I'll just skip to the point. The Dallas Cowboys have lost Lyle Collins on the offensive line, and also have a hole in the interior. Now, there's not a tackle prospect that is available right now that I would feel comfortable taking in the first round. However, a name that you guys have mentioned is still available for me. So I will go with Zion Johnson at this spot. Now, much to my dismay, I would not like this pick personally, but football wise, I think this would be a very, very good pick for the Cowboys. If you want to get back to that 2016, 2015 offensive line that they had where it was extremely dominant. I mean, you put him right next to Tyler Beatis and Zach Martin and an aging Tyron Smith. Zion Johnson, I mean, has an explosive first step out of his stance. I mean, he is physical, he is gritty, great bend. I mean, he for a young guard prospect, he shows good knee bend, something that a lot of offensive line and prospects just don't really show, even at the Division I level. So I'm gonna go with Zion Johnson. I think he has a high ceiling. Um, just everything you need as an interior lineman prospect.
Yeah, I think Bill and I can both agree. If Zion Johnson is on the board when the Cowboys come around, that would be one of the absolute steals of the draft.
Yep.
Yeah, moving on to a team that should have been in the Super Bowl, quite frankly, but had a couple poor coaching decisions that prevented that. We're going with the Buffalo Bills. So obviously the Bills have doubled down on their love for Josh Allen, and rightfully so, having him a huge extension last season, 6 years, like 250 million, 100-something million guaranteed. Alongside the fact they still have Stephon Diggs, they did lose Cole Beasley, but there's a lot of ways you can go if you're Buffalo. With that being said, Tyler, I'm going to throw it back to you. Who are you going with if you're the Bills?
All right, so this would be an interesting pick. Right here is where I'm going with the first running back off the board, and I'm going to go with Iowa State's Breece Hall. Now, before the 2021 season, the 2021 collegiate season, I've actually watched a lot of film on him because we played Iowa State in our third game, I believe.
Yes.
I've seen him.
Tyler, so how did that game go, by the way?
We're not going to talk about that. But anyway, when I saw Breece Hall in person, I mean, it was every bit of what I thought he would be. He is a big physical back. I mean, he legit 6 foot, 200 whatever pounds he weighed in at. I mean, he is just a physical force, but I think the best part of his game is his elusiveness, change of direction. He has deceptive speed. I remember I was talking with a scout at UNLV and talking about his speed. A lot of people don't realize that in high school, he actually clocked in a mid 4.40. So it wasn't extremely surprising that he ran a sub 4.40. Now, does he show that straight line speed on tape? No, that's because he's a very patient runner. I think he's very quick in the hole, good vision. I think I've told you this before, Brock, but my NFL comp for him was actually Le'Veon Bell. So I think he will be the workhorse in Buffalo, which they were lacking a true number one running back. So I'm going to go with Breece Hall.
Yeah, fair pick. I mean, you've made a lot of great, what's the right term?
Yeah, solid work.
Yeah.
My comparison is Matt Forte, but a lot of the things you said, definitely ring true.
Yeah, but you've done your research. Definitely great points. That's what the term I was looking for. Wow, Buffalo can go a lot of directions, but running back is definitely a need. So I'll throw it to you, Bill. Who are you taking for Buffalo?
And as was pointed out, this is a team that's fairly complete, and they don't necessarily have to draft for need. So I'm going to have them draft for the future. And that's defensive end / outside linebacker David Ajabo from Michigan. And he's a raw prospect, and he's a guy you're likely going to have to essentially redshirt. But there are teams that can afford to do that. They can say, okay, work on rehabbing, whatever. We're going to work on making some things happen around you, right? And so by the time he's ready to go, and maybe he's even ready to go late in the season, you have a really good football team that maybe is making a stretch run towards the playoffs. And now you have this guy that no one's really seen yet, except I guess his, college tape, but you haven't seen him in the NFL. And you're using him probably just on third downs, you're spot playing him. But think of what a guy with his athletic ability can do if you're basically looking for matchups, right? You're saying, okay, this guy is their weakest offensive lineman. You go find that guy. You line up there and just beat him. And don't worry about anything else. If it's the run, somebody else will take care of it, right? We just want you, because you keep it as simple for him. He's a raw guy. He came to football later, but he's the most physically gifted guy at that position, not named Trayvon Walker, probably in the class. It's only one of the most gifted. Up there, I guess it's sort of a fight between he and Thibodeau. But he's a really good athlete, just not all developed yet. Like, he's a guy you're going to have to do some work with and some work on, but he's got all the components that you look for to make a great pass rush.
Yeah, I like Ojogbo too. That's not the guy I picked, and the reason why is I don't have him in my first round, not for anything talent, but because of the injury and the fact that he would have to spend at least 1 year on the sidelines. Buffalo would be a good place for him. I do want to ask you a follow-up question, Bill.
Please do.
Buffalo just drafted Greg Rousseau, edge rusher, first round last season. Do you think that with that being said, they're going to want to move on from Rousseau if they draft a job?
No, it's not because you want to move on from Rousseau. It's because they're going to move on from people, but not the guys who just drafted. You're going to move on from the older players and the more expensive players. Like, that's how you manage to pay your quarterback a gazillion dollars, is that you are constantly churning the rest of the roster and shedding those mid-priced guys. Sadly, right? Even though you like them, you're going to be able to keep a couple of superstars and then a bunch of rookies, and the mid-priced guys are the ones that are going to frankly get the shaft. I mean, it's an unfortunate fact of how football teams are built nowadays, that when you're giving not just money, but guaranteed money, huge amounts of it, and especially if you're also handing out a lot of signing bonus cash, because as Serge, you guys already know, that money has to be, the moment that person signed, that money has to be in an escrow account, sitting there, waiting. So that was, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned it to you, I mentioned to somebody before, the real sort of inside baseball on why the Raiders had to move on from Khalil Mack, is they literally did not have the liquid capital at the time to provide for his signing bonus. So they had to move on from him because of all this stuff they were working on with other things. They were, including this moving and stadium and whatever. They were cash poor, for lack of a better putting it. I mean, the franchise is worth, 900 and whatever million dollars, but, or, something probably in the neighborhood of that, but they didn't have that much capital, like liquid that they could spend. So when you can get younger at a position and get more athletic at a position, and getting guys like Ojabo and Rousseau gives them a chance to do both while they're cheap, you kind of have to do it, especially if you're going to hand your quarterback, and probably soon Stephon Diggs, top of the market money at a couple of more expensive positions in football.
Well, actually, you make great points. I just feel that the window for Buffalo is going to be very small. Now, the window will always be open because Josh Allen is a phenomenal talent. But I think right now, the way the roster is constructed, especially as his contract continues on, the window is right now, it's the best is this and next season. And to me, they need to get a solid running back. However, a debate Tyler and I have had for what?
Oh, I think they're still going to draft a running back. I just don't think it's not going to be here.
Yeah, which is a fair point. This is who I'm going with, because I don't think he's going to be there come the second round when Buffalo picks again unless they trade up. And that is somebody who I like a lot. Tyler and I have had a lot of debate between him and Breece Hall, but that is Kenneth Walker out of Michigan State. So I really like Kenneth Walker. To me, skill level wise, yeah, they're different, but at the same time, like, to me, there's not a difference when you talk about overall ability between those two. The only reason I like Walker over Hall is for these reasons. very quality competition, played in my opinion the worst weather, and quite frankly, he secured a historic contract from Mel Tucker. If Kenneth Walker is not in East Lansing, Mel Tucker does not get his 10-year, $100-something million. He literally almost ran them to the college football playoffs if they didn't have to play Ohio State in Columbus. Right? They went down to Miami and won. They were down against Michigan at home, but Walker ran them back. To me, he is just that workhorse that is going to be a phenomenal talent in the NFL. And he has that it factor that I think is going to get Buffalo over the top, and he can rely on come those short down situations instead of just having Josh Allen, QB sneak it, and so on and so forth.
The thing that's interesting to me is even though he's a slightly smaller back, well, not smaller. I mean, he's decent size, but he's a little bit smaller than like Brees Hall, but he actually breaks more tackles than Hall. He has really impressive lower body strength. And the other difference is acceleration. They both are fast, but Walker gets the top speed faster, right? He's a guy who's at top speed in like 2 steps, while Hall needs about 6, which is still not bad, 5 maybe, but it's not bad to get the full speed. But I mean, Walker's instant acceleration. I got to see him in person when he played Northwestern this year, first game of the season. And that's a well-coached, not super, super talented, but a very well-coached Northwestern defense. He just destroyed them, just ripped them to shreds. 220 something, 228, whatever it was. I mean, he went off. He went all the way off. Catches the ball better than people realize too. It's just sort of a flavors thing, right? As was mentioned, Hall is very patient, great vision, bigger, better hands, and a little bit better in blitz pickup. Not that Walker's bad at it. Like Walker's solid in all areas, not quite as good at blitz pickup. His vision's very good, maybe not elite, but very good. But like I said, to me, the difference is he's got the more explosiveness in the lower body, more power in the lower body, and he gets the top speed fast.
Yeah, I like you said it. It's all not regardless. It all is who you want. Tyler he fell in love with
right, and how you plan to use them.
Yeah, I just think when you get a guy like Kenneth Walker who can burn people, that's a great asset to have. But more importantly, I just love the fact that to me he played behind a line that was good. It wasn't great. And when you see Buffalo's line, I think they're one of the above average lines in the NFL. And when you have a talent like Josh Allen, your defenses can't tone in on the run. So like you said, that acceleration is gonna he's gonna shoot to the next level. Moving on, we got the Tennessee Titans, which is very interesting because Jackson earlier said he would have drafted Sam Howell in the first, which if you thought I was crazy, I think that's borderline insane. But I'm gonna text him that later. But beside the point, I'll place you can go with Tennessee. Where are you going, Bill?
Kaiir Elam, Florida corner, long corner, and pretty decent athlete. His hips aren't at the level of the corners that went ahead of him. Well, let me take that back. He and Booth are probably about roughly the same in terms of hips, but there's a good drop off in terms of just hips from Sauce and obviously Stingley, who both have very good to elite hip flexibility and ability to change direction and all that. And that when you get to Elam and even to a certain extent Booth, these are guys that are better at things like press bail or off or like they can press bail, they can play off, zone. I mean, things where they don't have to turn and burn, where they don't have to suddenly be able to change direction at maximum speed and run. But Elam is another guy that's got good ball skills, pretty good tackler, can be physical enough with wide receivers to disrupt them on their routes. And I think once again, he's a guy that walks right on the field and starts, immediately, in his rookie season.
Yeah, I know you make a lot of great points. I believe that'll be the second straight cornerback they've drafted in the first round. I can't remember the name who they drafted last year. It's gonna bug me, but I'll look it up later. So I agree with the fact that who they selected last year. I remember it was Fulton or something like that. I gotta take a look, but he quite frankly wasn't too par. And when you have a team like Tennessee, who I'm not saying that they're complete, but if Tannehill can get it going for a 3-4 game stretch, they are literally unbeatable. I remember them walking into into LA to play the Rams with Adrian Peterson as a running back and absolutely stomping what was the eventual Super Bowl champions. So if Henry can come back strong, AJ Brown we know is going to be incredible. They just got Robert Woods. I love that. I really, really love that pick. Tyler, if you're the Tennessee Titans, who are you going with?
So I'm gonna go with eyebrow raiser here. I believe this is where Malik Willis will be taken off the board.
Ooh. That is spicy.
Ooh, first QB.
And that is just because one, personal bias against Ryan Tannehill. I do not believe he is the answer in Tennessee. But like Jackson had mentioned earlier in the show, what's so intriguing about Malik Willis is you didn't hear much draft buzz about him until this year. However, he has the best tools out of any quarterback in this draft class. And of course, that's including his arm strength. I'm not talking about how far down the field he can throw it. I don't care if you can throw the ball 70 yards downfield. It's more about the velocity that you put on the ball. Can you fit it into tight windows? Can you hit receivers when they're open if you don't have the best timing? You know, can you just get it to the receiver downfield, like 20 yards downfield if you need to drive it through a hole? Malik Willis can do all that. And there's, things that he still needs to work on in his game. I don't think he manipulates defenses with his eyes enough. I don't think, I think he played in a simplified offense at Liberty. However, his football IQ, I have no way of testing that, in person. But I believe if he, just continues to study the game of playing quarterback, I think if he improves his accuracy, I think he has all the tools to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. You have a good run game with Derrick Henry. You have a top 20 receiver in AJ Brown, and he provides a large catch radius for an average or a quarterback with average accuracy in Malik Willis. And I think Malik Willis also, too, something that people don't talk about enough is his athleticism. He didn't test at the combine. If I had to guess, I feel like he would have tested better than Desmond Ridder, if I had to guess. So with that being said, I think Tennessee is a very good situation for Malik Willis, and I do believe that Tennessee does have a quarterback need that they would not. I think they need a quarterback more than they like to admit. So this is why I'm going with Malik Willis.
Wow, that is a shocking pick. But the more I think about it, the more I start to love it. I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Tannehill too either. And to me, Willis is just a stronger arm, faster, and smaller version of Tannehill when you look at his game. Yes, that is a very simplified thing. There's more to break down in each player's game. However, my mouth is almost salivating. I thought if you could run the read option with Derrick Henry and Malik Willis, you can run the RPO with Malik Willis, Derrick Henry, and AJ Brown. The possibilities in Tennessee are endless. And yes, they do have to fix the offensive line as well. Wow, what a pick! I'm gonna have to switch mine. I'm not going to because it's too late. But if Seattle was a little early for a guy like Malik Willis, but Tennessee, when it comes to value, location, what he's gonna work with, it's almost a match made in heaven at this point. It just would be a bold move for them to move on from Tannehill, who just secured the number 1 seed last season.
And what's funny about that pick, too, is at 26, not too long ago, I believe a couple of years ago, another controversial quarterback pick was made by the Green Bay Packers at that same exact spot for Jordan Love, who, Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Tannehill are in two different echelons of, NFL quarterbacks. However, this would still be a quite interesting pick at 26.
Yes, and that Jordan Love selection is the key to my argument that the Packers should have an owner, because there's no way those guys should have been able to keep their jobs after trading up up to make that selection, especially when you had a guy like T. Higgins still on the board who fell to the AFC champion Bengals in the second. Right. So I'm going with a controversial pick at Tennessee. It's not really a need pick, more of a want pick in order to expand on what is to me an already blossoming offense, and that is Jameson Williams out of Alabama. Not only is his speed just going to actually change the dynamic for Tennessee, just his ability to be on the field is going to make defenses spread out even more or make defenses not put as much attention on the guys that they should. You're going to bring back a guy like Derrick Henry. Donta Foreman, if I believe he's still on the roster, he's decent enough to make an impact. You have A.J. Brown, Robert Woods, Jameson Williams. You also have Westbrook Hilaire, I believe his last name, are on the roster already, who's shown flashes of being good. And then
Westbrook Akina.
Yeah, thank you. I get all my names mixed up sometimes with the hyphenated, even though I have a hyphenated last name. That's not a good start. But right, and especially when you have a quarterback class next year that is going to be, it's going to have a lot of quarterbacks. So you got Stroud and Young, but guys that are draft eligible is guys like Radler. You got Tyler Van Dyke out of Miami. No, he's not eligible. I was going to say Caleb Williams, but he's not eligible.
But Jake Hayner's going to have a big year.
I said out of Fresno State. Tyler, we both love Hayner. I mean, I'm a UH fan, UNLV, so we both have watched a lot on him.
I think Keaton Slovis is a big bounce back season in Pittsburgh. People have forgotten Max Johnson. I think he's going to look much better next year.
Exactly. Dart out of Ole Miss, right? And then Dylan Gabriel out of Oklahoma with Jeff Levy. We don't know how he's going to pop off. So there's so many options too. I think you can delay it a year. But if you're able to build up a roster with those type of weapons, and then you can just get rid of Tannehill next season, and you can trade him away, or you can trade up. You can do so many different things. And you already have a defense that was just taking out Joe Burrow left and right. And they're only going to get better as they move on, especially when they don't have a couple picks, a couple rounds, but besides that, they can really build up that team, and Tannehill is going to be really easy to get rid of, whether you cut him or you eventually sell him to the Colts, because they look like they always did a quarterback. Yeah, they got Matt Ryan, but, when he loses to Jacksonville, they'll probably need another one too. So I'll go with Jameson.
To that quarterback debate for next year, I also want to throw out one name to actually watch is Cam Ward at Washington.
From Incarnate Word. Or at least we're going to be transferred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I'm a big Cam Ward guy. And a lot of things that we could say about and what just said about Malik Willis can be said about Cam, but I think Cam's an even better anticipatory thrower.
Yes, and I think he sees the field better. I think he's a more accurate passer as well.
Yep.
I think Malik Willis, what he does better is, he just possesses better arm strength.
He just has strong arm, right? Exactly.
But if you throw with anticipation, if you can keep the offense in rhythm, if you can throw with good accuracy, that the difference in that arm strength is not going to matter.
Yeah, and quite frankly, we could sit here and talk about all the quarterbacks that are draft eligible that will be substantially better than this QB class. And since you have that less than a year away, and as far as I know, Tennessee still has the 2023 first rounder, so you can do so many different things there.
Yes.
At 27, a team that doesn't need a quarterback, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Tom Brady has come back. They have made some nice offseason splashes with re-signing Godwin and then just picking up Russell Gage Jr. for the Falcons. Bruce Arians is stepping down, so it seems like head coach Todd Bowles will focus more on the defense, and Leftwich and Brady will be able to kind of operate the offense of their own. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just assuming. Many ways we can go here. I'm going to go with the head coach and on defense, and I'm taking Andrew Booth Jr. out of Clemson. And the reason why I take that is I just look at where the pick is, who's still on the board, and where can I get value. Yes, they have a very young DB room with guys like Winfield Jr. and Sean Murphy-Bunting and all the other guys. I can't think of their names right now. But we saw like one or two guys went down last year, and they were obliterated. To me, Booth is an up-and-comer, a guy that could start day one, but to me will be more of a rotation guy and just makes that room much more deep and able to play at a high level. because quite frankly, that defense took a step back because of those injuries in 2021 than how dominant they were in 2020. Levante David isn't getting any younger, right? So you got to capitalize while he's still around. The D line there's some things you got to fix, but they just got Tryon Shinuka from Washington last year. So they still have pass rushers. I think.
You're talking about Joe Tryon Shalinka?
Yeah, thank you. Right, so you still have a couple guys. The Dominican Sue, though he's older, said he's about to come back. Or I think about coming back. So you still have pieces. Shaq Barrett is due to return as well, right? You never know what's gonna happen with JPP, but he's still out there. I just think it's just a match made in heaven to bring in a quarterback. And to me, as of right now on my board, he is the best cornerback available. So I'm gonna throw that to you, Tyler. Who do you think Tampa Bay should select with 27?
So this is where David Ojabo will land for me. And I think this is actually a pretty good situation for him to land in as well. Like we mentioned before, he is a young prospect, only 21 years old. Now, what was mentioned also was the torn Achilles that he suffered. But with Shaq Barrett and Joe Tryon coming back, there is not an immediate need for him. However, like what was also said is making that room younger. Shaq Barrett is 29. Next year will be 30. Is on a 4-year deal. Who even knows if he makes it through those 4 years? If you need to unload some salary cap on the salary cap, now you have capital. You have David Ojabo in that room, and Shaq Barrett becomes expendable on that defense. So, and my thing too is with David Ojabo, I never thought he was a guy that would start day one. And in this situation, he wouldn't have to. Even in his second year, he wouldn't have to come back, and there wouldn't be a need for him to make an immediate impact. But he has the athletic tools. He has a very quick first step. I think what also goes unnoticed about Ojabo is I read one time that he ran track in high school.
Yep.
Was actually a sub 11 100-meter dash runner. I mean, that's incredible for someone his size. So if you can replicate that kind of speed and athleticism and the quickness and change of direction that he shows on film, there is a lot to work with for that Buccaneers defensive staff and for Todd Bowles.
All right, fair enough. Wow. Ojabo's getting a lot of love from both of you. I gotta admit, because he fell off my first round board completely. But you guys have made excellent points. 1 in Buffalo and 2 in Tampa Bay. Going to you, Bill, to finish up with Tampa Bay. Who are you taking?
So I was torn. I think on my board, Jordan Davis is still there, right?
It should be.
I believe so. So this is where he goes off the board, at least in part, because as has been mentioned, they have a very talented defensive line, but it's a very old defensive line. And I know they're in win now mode, but when you get into your mid and early 30s, especially as a pass rusher, whether it be an interior or exterior pass rusher, you need fewer reps. Fewer reps are your friend. Playing a lot of reps is not your friend when you get deeper into your 30s. And of course, I know you guys have no experience with that. I do. And let me assure you, aging, I mean, there's advantages, right? Your credit score goes up, your car insurance goes down. People are less likely to see you as a threat when you're walking down the street. The police don't hassle you as much, right? There's that. But the other end of the trade-off is that you have mystery pains that you don't know where they came from or why this aches. If you do go out and do something active or physically demanding, and these are elite level athletes, so obviously it takes more for them than it would for a normal person, but your body doesn't recover as quickly. That's just factual information. Like, that's not a theory, that is known. And when you play a collision position like defensive tackle, and you're well into your 30s, I mean, Tuesday sucks, after a Sunday game day. Like, your kids want to play, they're like, no, daddy can't play, So Jordan Davis, whether or not he is a huge impact player as a rookie, just his ability to take some snaps away from a bunch of players on the D line, because he can move up. I think he can play anywhere from 4-eye to 0-1. And so he can take some snaps away from a bunch of guys on that defense and help to keep them fresher.
Wow. Jordan Davis lands on the Buccaneers, I'm going to put all the money I have into the Buccaneers winning the NFC Championship because I don't see them being unstoppable at that point. Moving on to Green Bay's second first. I don't think I've ever remembered Green Bay having 2 first-round picks.
It's happened before, but not in a very long time. Yes.
At least probably not in my lifetime, or at least not.
Yeah, it's been a very long time.
Yeah. So a lot of ways they can go. I believe the both of you said Treylon Burks in the first, right? That's right? And then Tyler, did you say? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going with the receiver this time, and it's not him. It's actually somebody that's probably gonna make you guys go to me like Brock.
Is it George Pickens? Is it Sky Moore? Or is it Khalil Shakur?
It's Khalil Shakur.
It's Shakur. Okay, I like him.
Okay, fine. Hey, finally, one of my controversial picks Bill likes, but this is everything I just love about him. I mean, I watched his film a lot because I watch a lot of Mountain West football. To me, if I'm being honest with you, I see him be at the level of a Chris Olave, of a Garrett Wilson. I love his route running. He's a phenomenal athlete, great feet. Like them, he's able to run the entire tree. I love his explosive speed, especially with the ball in his hands. He can blow by safeties trying to come and make that tackle. He has excellent hands. His reach is almost Chad Ochocinco, like in my opinion. He can stretch and contort his body all types of ways, even mid-air, and able to catch the ball. He played in every condition possible. He's played up in the cold in Boise. He was exploding down in the hot summer months at UCF. There's nowhere that he can't play. To me, there's a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown with him. I'm not saying he's going to be in that running back style either. But what I say is he can be used in a multitude of ways as a receiver, as a utility player. The biggest thing for me is the way he's able to contort his body. He can catch a pass at any angle, any way, from almost any position. I mean, that dude could literally be falling on his back and contort and catch a ball. And that's a skill that you need when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And thus, I'll be going with Khalil Shakir at number 28. I'll throw it to you, Tyler. Who are you taking for Green Bay's second first rounder? You're on.
All right, there we go. So for Green Bay, I'm gonna go with Kaiir Elam here from Florida. And as Bill touched on it before, I do see some stiffness in his game. But that's okay. You have Jair Alexander playing opposite of you. Now all you need is a cornerback too. Kaiir Elam is not a guy that you want to ask to play the field, so you'll play him in the boundary. You'll play him outside. Doesn't have great change of direction, but he does have good length. He's a good coverage corner. I just can't see him covering the field as well, just like I've mentioned before, the stiffness, which hinders your change of direction. But it does feel that need for cornerback too for the Green Bay Packers. I just can't see them going with receiver at the moment, even though I would like to see them go with another receiver later on in the draft. I just don't think there is any receiver available right now warranting that value to go in the first right now.
Yeah, I get that, but let me pose a question to you with Kaiir Elam. They already have a pretty crowded DB room. Obviously, you got Amos and Savage at safety. You also got Rasul Douglas, and you just got Eric Stokes last year. Do you think Elam will be able to fit in with that type of room?
Oh, absolutely. And especially in today's game, you can never have too many good corners. I mean, this is an era where a defense like the 4-2-5 will thrive. Like you need 5 corners out or 5 DBs, excuse me, at all times because the NFL is evolving to a more pass heavy, speed oriented game. I mean, you see a lot of teams now implementing the zone run scheme, which requires a lot of speed. And with the evolution of the West Coast offense, with a lot more, emphasis on quarterback centric offenses, you need to be able to cover as well as rush the passer.
That's a very fair point. And also just kind of jumping off of that, Jair Alexander missed a significant amount of time last season due to his injury. So like we've all been saying, you can never have too big of a DB room. I'm going to throw it to you, Bill. Who are you taking with your second pick at GB?
So this is a team, as mentioned, is in win now mode. They have a little bit of a window, but it's a fairly short one. And this is why this team's going to feel more comfortable taking a dice roll on a player who's, despite being raw, is 24 years and 6 months old. And by the time the draft rolls around, I guess 24 years, 7 months old. And that's Bernard Rahman, the German Wunderkind, right? He's not so young, I guess, but he's young in football years. He came to football late because, once again, German national, comes to the United States in his teens, gets exposed to American football for the first time, enjoys it, plays tight end for a couple of years. He's only played 20 something games at tackle, which, means that he's still a project, but he's extremely talented. He can be a swing tackle while he settles in and learns the pro game and gets better. But his athletic ability is not something you can teach people. To be able to move like that at his size is not something that you're able to teach, unfortunately. I bet they wish they could teach that kind of stuff. But so stuff God gave him, the stuff that he was born with is rare. And you just got to continue to teach him football and, know that this is a guy that probably won't have a 13, 12-year career just because of the age he had coming into the league. But if you get 2 contracts out of him, you're fine.
Yeah. And to be fair, though, I mean, that was more on left tackle position. We have seen guys in recent memory play into their late 30s. Obviously, Dwayne Brown, Trent Williams, Andrew Whitworth just retired. So you never know with this new generation how long they can play as well. All right, moving on. We're going to go 29-30 because they're owned by the same team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs, in my opinion, have made the least amount of moves in this very incredible offseason, especially in the AFC West. They have had some key losses. Daniel Sorensen, but he was always getting burnt, so that's whatever. But Tyrann Mathieu and Tre'Davious Ward. They did sign Reed, the safety from Houston, so that is an addition.
Justin Reed, Eric's little brother.
Exactly. And then they just got Marquez Valdes-Scantling and also Juju Smith-Schuster to supplement the loss of course, Tyreek Hill. All right, we're going to go say both picks. I'm going to throw it to you, Tyler. Who do you see Casey taking with number 29 and number 30?
All right, so quick question. Is Jermaine Johnson still available for me, or did I have him going to another team? I can't remember.
As far as I know, you did have Jermaine Johnson going to the – where was it? Was it the Vikings? No, was it Texans? I'll look at the whole board. I think you had them go to the Ravens, if I'm not mistaken.
That was me.
The Ravens.
That was you. What did you take for the Ravens?
I had Andrew Booth going to the Ravens.
Okay, then, yep. Jermaine Johnson is still on your board.
All right. Well, in that case, I will be going with Jermaine Johnson at 29.
Wow.
I know, kind of late for a prospect of his caliber, but if he's available, I'll take him there. And
heck of a day at the office.
And with the next pick, I will be going with Kenneth Walker at the next pick. My thing with Kenneth Walker is I think he fits the Andy Reid offense. He's explosive. Like we said before, he is a better accelerator than Breece Hall is. My only question is I don't know how great he is in the receiving game. I do believe that Breece Hall does have the edge as a receiver out of the backfield, but I think Kenneth Walker still provides value on third down. He's explosive, and I think he's a true number one running back, or has true number one running back potential, aside from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And with Jermaine Johnson, it just fills their need for an edge rusher, adds value to that defense. Jermaine Johnson is just, that toolbox is just, it's incredible for a prospect coming out of college. That's just not something you see very often. I do question his motor at times, but with that kind of player, you just can't pass up with this type of value at this spot. So those are my 2 picks right there.
Yeah, if you're able to get Jermaine Johnson at 29, that I know I said there was the steal of the draft was for the Cowboys. It's gonna bug me, but that
Zion Johnson.
Yeah, Zion Johnson. Thank you. But if you would get Jermaine Johnson at 29 or 30, whichever one they pick, wow, that would be the steal of the draft. I'm gonna throw it to you, Bill. Who are you taking with 29 and 30?
So I'm going to put an end to the slide of DeMarvin Leal. I think that they see him and think he could possibly do Chris Jones things. Now, he's not quite as athletic as Chris Jones. Chris Jones is a special guy, but he has similar physical, like I said, not quite as athletic, but similar physical dimensions and wins kind of the same way. He's a guy who's, once again, either very versatile or a tweener, depending on how you feel about guys who are not quite 100% edge rusher, but not quite 100% interior. He's a little bit of both, but the same could be said of Chris Jones. And Chris Jones is not getting any younger. For those who are, keeping track at home, he is actually aging like the rest of us. And then the other piece I'm going to add there, much to my own chagrin, is Christian Watson. So not that they won't miss Tyreek Hill, but it'll be easier to miss Tyreek Hill when you have a guy like Christian Watson just mossing people all over the place and just running away from people and blocking the daylights out of them too. This is a really good blocking wide receiver class. You've got Christian Watson, you've got George Pickens, that kid Mike Woods from Oklahoma, Isaiah Weston, the aforementioned Alec Pierce. I mean, these guys block like they want to, like they mean it. Like you don't always see that from wide receivers. To have this number of wide receivers that are like close to elite level blockers is surprising. Like I don't know where it came from, because like the last couple of years classes, nobody was particularly great at blocking. Like, there's a couple of guys who were decent at it, gave good effort, but some of these guys are devastating blockers.
Wow, you just really want KC to just destroy my Chargers every year.
Well, see, that's why I felt bad. I felt bad about it. But I mean, I just can't see Andy Reid looking at the guy and saying, I don't want him. You know what I mean? Like, think of Andy Reid sitting there. It's like, oh, that kid's available? The kid who runs like that, jumps like that, is that size? Sure. Because they've had some really good players, especially receivers in Kansas City, but none of them look like that.
Yeah, so as we go through 30 picks, once again, a phenomenal draft by Bill Carroll, who just knocks it out of the park every single time. And then there's me going with the Kobe Dean at number 2. I do want to add that from Kenneth Walker, for Tyler's point, Kansas City was the most dangerous when they had Kareem Hunt. To me, they need one of those pure running back guys. And even the Super Bowl, yes, Mahomes won MVP, but to me, Damian Williams should have won the MVP, because he literally, if he was on the field, there's no way that comeback happens. Yes, the big throw to Tyreek was huge, but Damian Williams was getting them the yards that they need to put away that game. And that's why I think if they do get Kenneth Walker as well, that'd be a phenomenal pick. For 29 and 30, this guy's been sliding on my draft board at 29, so I'm finally picking Jordan Davis, big D tackle out of Georgia. I mean, I don't like him high per se, because I know he's not going to be able to be on the field for a bunch of times. And even against Alabama in the SEC championship game, there are some times as the game went on where he literally was non-existent, and it wasn't his fault. It's just he literally had nothing left in the gas tank. However, you put him in a situation like Kansas City, where they already have playmakers all over the field, especially on the D-line. They got Frank Clark again. They got Chris Jones. Yes, Chris Jones, in my opinion, is more effective inside than he is outside. They can also substitute him in to go along with, to me, a fairly strong front seven. At number 30, I'm taking a cornerback, and I'm taking Kyer Elam as well. He's going to help replace Ward. To me, with Ladarius Sneed, he's going to go number 1. You can have Elam kind of come at number 2. He helps out a little bit, especially with a weakened secondary headed into this year. And quite frankly, they can get more pieces for offensively later on in the draft. There's always Austin and all the other receivers down the road. So therefore, those are my 2 picks. I just want to mention before we move on to 31, when Bill gave me the list of receivers for Green Bay, I should have said Romeo Doubs just to mess with him, just to show how crazy I am. But that's all jokes. Moving on to the AFC champions, surprise champions, Cincinnati Bengals. I am going with Jalen Peter, quarterback out of Baylor, for them, for just the pure reason is he, in my opinion, is the best cornerback left on the board, and that is the room that they need help with quickly, especially with reinforcing their
And no offense to Eli Apple, but I think they believe they can upgrade the position.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real now. Eli Apple wasn't the only problem, but he was a big one, especially when it came to that Super Bowl game. And if that team wants to come back, they've already done everything, in my opinion, they need to do on everywhere else. They fixed the O-line, right? They already got a phenomenal wide receiver room. Burrow's there, great running back room. Defensively, the pass rush is another phenomenal pass rusher, Hubbard and Hendrickson. They got Joseph Osai coming off an injury. We don't know how he's going to be, but I have a lot of faith in him coming out of Texas. They already got Logan Wilson at linebacker, so that's who I'm going with for the Bengals. Like, kick it to you, Bill. Who you taking?
This is interesting for me. I'm running out of first round players with first round grades, but I agree on Jalen Petrie. I think he's a guy that people came to a little bit late, including the NFL. The NFL saw him as like a third rounder as late as the middle of the season, and he began to move up towards the second round, gets to the Senior Bowl. People go back and look at the tape and like him more and more. And then he has the combine. And I think he's now an into the first round guy. And I think draft Twitter and the NFL kind of agree. Like that sometimes there's a big difference between what draft Twitter thinks, what the NFL thinks. This is one of the situations where I think they're in accordance on what they think of the player.
Yeah, I just want to add on the fact that he comes from that Dave Aranda school of defense, which has produced some really top athletes. And I'm because he was a DC at Hawaii, and I'm a big Dave Aranda fan. I think when he brings that type of mindset and that type of defensive knowledge to the game, he's going to be able to make a lot of plays. I'm going to kick it to you, Tyler. Who is the Bengals taking at 31?
So I'm going to go with Kenyon Green here at 31, still available for me. I mean, the story of the Cincinnati Bengals last year was they can't protect Joe Burrow. Now, I would have loved to have replaced Eli Apple in any way possible. Personally, again, just because he was a former New York Giant. Don't need to reiterate or don't need to really dive into that much, but
So was BJ Hill, right?
Yeah, BJ Hill, but
they went to the Super Bowl after they left it. Yeah.
But I believe with Kenyon Green, he provides that much needed help inside. You just picked up Lyle Collins to help man the right tackle spot. I believe what they're really missing on that offensive line was just more protection inside. And I think Kenyon Green will be an upgrade over whoever is manning that guard position right now.
Well, they did just sign Alex Kappa, I believe.
Right, but isn't he playing, I'm not wrong, the right guard?
Yeah, he's playing guard.
Yeah.
So you would move Green to the left.
Yes.
Fair enough, because who is the left guard for them? I remember because I remember him getting blown up against Aaron Donald in the final play of the Super Bowl. That doesn't matter.
Jackson Carmen.
Yeah, I think that's him. So it has been a long draft. We're finally at the last pick. Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, bunch of kneecaps off. Who do they select to solidify the next part of their rebuild in this draft? I'm going to kick it to you, Bill, to kick us off.
So, first of all, as I've said before, I'm not as high on the quarterback class as a whole as some people are. I do believe there's, even if it's not this particular quarterback, I do believe a quarterback could make it to them here. In my world, it would be Willis. And they would treat this as at least one more bridge year with Goff. With Willis, just essentially learning about reading defense and manipulating defenses, using his eyes better, not waiting until an opening is there, not waiting until the player breaks, right? He has a tendency to wait. He has to see it first, right? He's one of those guys that's like, oh, okay, now he's open. In the NFL, if you wait, even with a strong arm, if you wait that long, they won't be open, right? That ball will be tipped or it'll be intercepted. So that year where he's figuring that stuff out and learning an NFL offense and all this stuff he has to do, you still have Goff. And though Goff is not an inexpensive option, obviously, he's not top of the market, right? He's you're paying him enough that it doesn't kill you to draft another quarterback, tail into the first, get another year of team control than if you had taken that same player literally just one pick later, right? If you trade down one pick and still take him, you now have one year fewer under your control if it turns out he is good. So though I don't have a first round grade on any of the quarterbacks, this feels like it's not, the value feels about right. And especially for a guy that's not going to play this year anyway, if things work out.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you as well. I'm going to kick it to you, Tyler, but real quick, I don't have a first round grade on any quarterback in this draft. I think between all the teams that are picking from 25 below, Tennessee, like you mentioned, Tyler, and Detroit, the only ones in need of a quarterback. I think that's a sweet zone for the first one off the board. So I just want to applaud both of you for, I think, nailing that part. Tyler, you're Detroit. Who are you taking? Considering you already have Willis off the board, who are you taking at 32?
So I do like the idea of Detroit taking a quarterback at this spot. But then again, if it's not Willis, I don't like Pickett. I don't like Desmond Ritter all that much. And like we mentioned earlier, the 23 class is very exciting with a lot of quarterback talent. Now, let's not kid ourselves. The Detroit Lions are probably not going to win more than 5 to 6 games. So they will be picking in the top 10 again next year. So they will have a shot at one of those elite level quarterbacks that are coming out next year. I shouldn't say elite, but
Right. I know what you meant.
But over here, I would go with Christian Watson from North Dakota State at this spot. Amon St. Brown emerged late half of the in the second half of the season. But aside from that, I mean, you have Josh Reynolds, you have DJ Shark, but aside from those three, there's not really that much depth within that receiver room. Like was mentioned before, Christian Watson is a physical blocker as a receiver, and you don't see that much at, once again, every level of football. One thing you'll find a receiver struggle to do is to block, and it's not because they lack the strength to do it. It's just because they're not willing to do it. But Christian Watson will block off the edge. You have a young running back in DeAndre Swift. He will help him in the run game when he bounces out.
Yep.
I think Christian Watson is still a little bit raw around the edges as a true wide receiver, but he has the athletic tools. He does what him blocking to me as a wide receiver shows me that he will do what is asked of him. And I believe he will add value to that wide receiver room in Detroit.
So obviously, with my second overall pick, I took one that many people will agree is a reach. I just have that much belief in Nakobe Dean that he will develop to be one of the top, if not the top linebackers in the NFL. I'm going to go with something more conservative. And I understand the argument for a quarterback, but I think Goff deserves another year under center, especially when we're considering, one, how much of a dysfunctional organization Detroit has been in general, especially these last couple of years under Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, alongside the fact that Dan Campbell, as a head coach, made some very highly questionable decisions throughout the course of the season on multiple occasions. I think number one is being the back-to-back timeouts against Chicago on Thanksgiving. Alongside the fact his offensive coordinator, Anthony Lynn, he took away his play calling privileges like 5 weeks into the season, right? So I think Goff deserves another offseason for them to get on the same page. If not, you can always punt them next year or move on from it next year in terms of getting a quarterback. And also that's less of a cap hit you're going to take on your money. Alongside the fact any new quarterback is going to be walking in, for at least from the offense perspective, on a pretty nice situation. I mean, they got a lot of pieces on that O-line. Obviously, Taylor Decker just drafted Sewell. They got Frank Ragnow at center, right? DJ Chalk at wide receiver they brought in. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's looking to be a stud. So with all that being said, TJ Hawkinson, I'm going to go with a guy who I believe has that bite your kneecaps off mentality. Therefore, I'm going with Treylon Burks, wide receiver out of Arkansas. He dropped a little lower than you guys had him. I just think he just provides that physical presence that's going to be a phenomenal asset for that team. And if they're able to kind of equip him with other weapons, he can grow on his physical gifts and become more of a complete receiver. He's not very high on my list in terms of receivers. I just believe that when it comes to what Detroit can do, they need a receiver. He kind of fits that mold, and he just has that grit and attitude that exemplifies Detroit. So that finishes our full first round mock. Time for the second round. Now, just kidding. Thank you once again to Bill Carroll and Tyler Fukuroda for coming on the show. That does conclude our first round full mock draft. However, there is much more content available in our next episode, episode 3, that will be posted tomorrow. In that, we will be going over our top 10 players in the draft, our top 5 quarterbacks, our top 5 day 2 and day 3 guys, along with teams we think are going to trade up or trade down, and a prospect who we all think should get more attention than they're currently getting. All right, thank you guys for listening. Till next time. Bye.